format, therefore, is a result of that request, which will allow for a direct, meaningful, and solution-oriented engagement between the traditional leaders, ministers, and the presidency. The President welcomed this proposal and, in a decisive move, established an interministerial task team on matters of traditional leadership. This task team was delegated to the Deputy President to chair, signaling the seriousness with which the government views its partnership with traditional leaders. The IMTT, therefore, was mandated to facilitate ongoing dialogue, policy alignment, and collaborative planning across key sectors affecting traditional communities. Today's program reflects the strategic architecture of that task team. Ministers have been assigned to specific work streams, each focused on a critical area of development, few amongst which land ownership and tenure rights, institutional capacity and support, social cohesion and nation building, infrastructure investment and skills development, and lastly, policy, legislative and constitutional matters. These work streams are not merely thematic, they are vehicles for transformation designed to ensure that the voices of our traditional leaders are not only heard, but actively shape the development agenda. This dialogue is also aligned with priority number 3 of the medium-term development plan, which recognizes traditional leadership as a cornerstone of a capable, ethical, and developmental state. The Traditional and Khoi-San Leadership Act, number 3 of 2019, further affirms this role, positioning traditional leaders as custodians of culture, mediators in conflict, and agents of socio-economic change. The Ministry of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has worked to ensure that traditional leadership is integrated into the review of the white paper on local government, allowing for a reimagining of how traditional and municipal governance structures can coexist and collaborate. As we begin today's dialogue, let us all be guided by the principle that the person you are listening to might know something you might not know. This is a powerful reminder from Jordan Peterson's Lessons for Life. The ethos of humility, mutual respect, and active listening is the foundation upon which this dialogue is built. We stand at a crossroads. One path leads to fragmentation and mistrust. The other leads to collaboration, shared vision, and inclusive development. Let this dialogue be the turning point, a moment where the government and traditional leadership commit to working together, not just in ceremony, but in substance and strategy. National Chair, you have made reference to a same song for the past 31 years. I want to assure you, National Chair, working together with the Deputy President and all work streams, we are committing the 7th administration to resolve all outstanding issues ranging across remuneration, safety and security, and the overall welfare of our royalty and traditional leaders. The song of 31 years must result to a long-awaited expectation of our traditional and Khoi-San leaders. I reaffirm our commitment to cooperative governance, to community-driven development, and to empowering traditional leaders as champions of both heritage and progress. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
And the commitment that the song will change. The new song that is currently on the platform, Baris Funa Magumba. So I don't know if you know that song, Minister, but I do believe it's a relevant song. Because we are going to request the Deputy Chairperson of the House to come and give observations. Bele, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the Deputy President, His Majesties, Ministers, Deputy Ministers, Chairpersons of Provincial Houses, and their deputies, Inkosi Zonke and our officials. Good morning. In the previous year, the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders engaged with the President's opening address through a formal debate, mirroring the process followed by Parliament. However, this format proved to be ineffective, as ministers were either present or absent, or when present, did not have speaking rights. Consequently, the House proposed that the engagement take a form of a dialogue rather than a traditional debate. This recommendation was accepted, and the first such dialogue was led by the then Deputy President, Mr. Didi Mabuza, following his provincial engagements. The second was led by the President himself, and since October 2023, was chaired by the current Deputy President, Mr. Paul Mashatile. During the 2023 failed Chief Itso held in Bloemfontein, Deputy President was accompanied by only 2 ministers and 2 deputy ministers, reflecting limited cabinet participation in this program. April 2024, dialogue saw improved attendance. However, it did not yield significant outcomes due to time constraints and a lack of actionable deliverables that could be reported back to communities. As a result, it was agreed that a dedicated day would be set aside exclusively for engaging with the institution of traditional leadership. I remember it was suggested by Deputy President Paul Mashatile. The 2025 dialogue was therefore structured as follows. A dialogue-based discussion on the President's opening address with responses provided by the Deputy President or designated ministers on matters raised. Presentations by workstream conveners on progress made, followed by interactive discussions. Conveners with relevant ministers would provide explanations and feedback, after which the program director would formally close the session. Final resolutions from the dialogue would be derived from the outcomes of each discussion. The interministerial task team consists of the following 5 working streams. Work stream 1, led by Okaba, advancing land ownership, tenure rights, and accelerating socio-economic development in rural communities. The second one, strengthening institutional capacity and ensuring adequate support to traditional leaders, led by Umadiba, Minister Kodongwana. Promoting unity, social cohesion, and nation building within rural communities, led by Minister Mackenzie. Advancing infrastructure development and skills enhancement in rural areas, led by Minister Khoi-San. Fast-tracking the finalization of key policy, legislative, and constitutional matters, led by Minister Kubai. Coming to the analysis of the President's address. The President's 2025 opening address did not introduce a new or unexpected information for the institution of traditional leadership, with the exception of the announcement that the national budget presentation would be postponed. This development did not come as a surprise to the institution, given the historical lack of engagement by relevant ministers with the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders. Nonetheless, the institution acknowledges and appreciates Minister Kodongwana's budgetary pronouncement regarding infrastructure provisions for kings and queens. And we are grateful to you, Bulawayo, and your deputies for that intervention. Despite this, the institution was disappointed by the continued omissions of a critical issue, the transfer of land to the traditional councils. Kaba, you might know that the 9 frontier wars were not about anything. They were about the question of land. So the land should be returned to traditional leaders and their people. We want more of Ingonyama trust in the country. While the institution supports the Appropriation Act, particularly for its potential to enhance economic development in rural areas, in rural communities, it is imperative that some of the government-owned land and farms be considered for transfer to traditional authorities in line with these objectives. Unlike what is taking place in the country of foreigners owning land. There's a king of Dubai is owning a farm in the Eastern Cape, and yet all the 7 kings of the Eastern Cape do not have farms. It's an indictment on our black government that it should support traditional leaders. Even myself, I don't have a farm. Yet I sit 70 kilometers next to that king of Dubai. Pronouncement by the president. Traditional leaders support the administration of many of our rural and peri-urban communities. The core responsibility of a traditional leader is to work towards the development of the community. The support required from government include, but is not limited to financial, human, and infrastructural support. Administration cannot be effective if the support from government is merely moral. It is recommended, therefore, that government, through the current process, Bulawayo, of the review of the white paper on local government, that municipalities should financially support traditional councils. It is our well-considered view that traditional councils remain a primary tier of local government. The second observation from the President's opening address. Traditional leaders preside over communities that bear the brunt of poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment, and the consequential negative results of climate change. The President rightly observed that traditional leadership structures predominantly lead impoverished communities. The state of rural areas continues to mirror the legacy of the country's historical inequalities. Inequalities that, despite promises of progress, since 2004 remain largely unaddressed. Poverty in these communities fuels a cycle of social challenges, including rising crime rates, substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, and elevated child mortality. Eastern Cape is a leading province in teenage pregnancy, particularly the Howard Tambo District Municipality. These issues are not isolated. They are symptoms of systemic neglect and underinvestment in rural areas. The government should actively embrace the principles outlined in the Our Invest Rural Master Plan, which advocates for a paradigm shift in how investors perceive rural areas. By promoting rural regions as viable and attractive investment destinations, this strategy could significantly uplift the economic conditions of rural populations and drive long-term development. Thirdly, the recent floods in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape, particularly in Tata, have led to the loss of lives, damage to farming land, destruction of property and infrastructure. This threat of climate change was foreseen long ago by Sanose Utata Okredo Kumutu. This oversight reflects a troubling trend from our leadership to do issues in the Western way, sidelining indigenous ways of understanding and preparing for the future. Today, our communities suffer the consequences. Lives are lost because of our leadership style. Despite this, the institution acknowledges and appreciates the efforts made by provincial governments and municipalities, especially those that led by COCTA and the National Disaster Management under leadership Bulawayo in responding to these disasters. However, we must reevaluate the current approach, particularly when it comes to supporting farmers. I've seen Bulawayo, I think last week, you launched the Fed Fire management program in KZN, which is appreciated. But below with this function, riding on the political wave of white paper review, this function befits or should be delegated at a local level to traditional councils because our grazing land is being banned. So traditional councils must be capacitated to be able to deal with this issue of fell fires. Traditional leaders cannot be spectators in development. We are partners in development of our communities. COCTA should capacitate traditional leadership on climate change workshops so that in times of disaster, we are able to navigate such trouble. Fourthly, traditional leaders should be encouraged to allow people to build houses, not to build houses or reside in floodline areas. And indeed, abusing or riding on the wave of the white people in local government, traditional leadership or traditional councils should be given that function to address the issues of spatial planning in rural areas. It can't be that SPLUMA or Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act is taking that function away from us as traditional leaders. Ayikho governor ngokwindoda that can go phakathi komhlaba wasekayocanda amanxeba without me. Singayenza abovu. Into sazi isiXhosa ke. Uzayazi when sithi singayenza abovu. What I mean. This responsibility of spatial planning should not be exclusively delegated to municipalities, especially when it is clear that traditional leaders have proven to have capacity to manage land. With this white paper review, district and metros should at least be forced in a form of legislation to address the local houses of traditional leaders, even quarterly. This avoids fragmented individual consultations that foster divisions and undermine unity. And these sessions will ensure that development progress and targets are transparently shared, monitored, and collectively owned. A fifth observation. The President says we strongly condemn the rise in killing of traditional leaders. The targeted killings of traditional leaders have persisted for far too long now, and it should be resolved. The matter, Minister Bulawayo, has been on the table for too long now. It can't be we're still looking for a policy after about 49 lives have been lost. So something urgent must be done. We appreciate the commission that has been established by the President. And secondly, to date, not a single perpetrator has been publicly identified or held accountable for the killing of traditional leaders, especially in KZN. And this silence from our government is unacceptable, and the continued loss of respected leaders demands immediate and decisive intervention. Even the chair of the National House does not even have security. He's only secured by his ancestors. We strongly, therefore, recommend that the investigative commission must investigate the assassinations of traditional leaders and the reasons behind this. And this mandate should extend across the province. The latest killing was in the Eastern Cape at Kosim Tikhaga, where Chieftain Tikhaga was gunned down at the Great Palace at Mkagezwini, where Mandela grew up. And 6 young girls in that evening were raped in that great place. And you can't ask for a policy when Mzungulu has been gunned down and 6 girls raped in a great place, because we view a great place as a place of safety. So you can't be looking for a policy, yet people are dying. Six, the President announced a national dialogue will soon be convened, inviting all South Africans to come together and chart a new course for our country. Indeed, the President has extended a call to the institution to prepare for a meaningful dialogue and to help shape a new path for the country. This dialogue must be inclusive, embracing every sector of society, every formation, and every citizen. This invitation by the President is both timely and significant. And we appreciate that the President has appointed our chairperson to be part of the eminent persons and trusted with guiding the national process. For this process to be truly transformative, it is essential that traditional leaders and community they serve are actively involved. It is a recognition of a vital role by traditional leaders to play and foster unity, healing, and progress. I'm trying to be quick, Chair. The medium-term development plan. The Government of National Unity has adopted 3 fundamental priorities under the MTTP. Firstly, to drive inclusive growth and job creation. However, this success of these priorities hinges not only on sound policy, but on the practice of servant leadership across all levels of government. Secondly, reduce poverty and tackle high cost of living. Leadership should be responsive. I'm trying to move fast, Chair. Okay. Traditional leaders. The 9th observation by the President. Traditional leaders are the custodians of culture and tradition. The National House of Traditional Leaders fully supports the directive that initiation must remain a sacred rite of passage, not a path to tragedy. Isiko alibulali liyaphilisa. We regret the deaths that are currently taking place in this noble custom. And indeed, we should, as traditional councils, establish our working committees at all levels of the TC. At the same time, Deputy Minister Ngamash, New York has to be funded. New York cannot staff on the budget of the National House. The National Initiation Oversight Committee, which is chaired by Mashatile, has not been budgeted for. And your department has a tendency of developing policy and not fund it. On the 10th observation by the President, it's around disputes in royal families. We wish to encourage the program by the Department of Traditional Affairs, led by Ms. Kuzwayo, if I think I'm correct, on writing down genealogies of all these royal houses in the country, so that we avoid disputes that are ending up in court. For an example, the genealogy of our former colonizers is clear from the current incumbent and about 2 that are going to succeed him, who is going to be in charge. So we would want the same from our Department of Traditional Affairs. And there's a tendency of emerging traditional leaders, especially around Gauteng and Mpumalanga and Eastern Cape, that are calling themselves as traditional leaders. It is provided for in the Act. In the traditional Khoi-San leadership Act, any person that imposed her as a king or a chief must be arrested. And we're waiting for the Department of Traditional Affairs to take action against these people that are calling themselves as traditional leaders, paramount chiefs. The other one was they had a republic of Amakwati here in Joburg at Boksburg. And Amakwati, what I know, they are in England only, not here. Traditional leaders should participate on the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. And the House is currently working with Dr. Henrietta Khoi-San Foundation and Princess Khabo Moroka Foundation, although Mutual and many others actively are engaged in our communities. And I know even on the 28th and 29th of August, we'll be working in Mashatile on a training on GBV with traditional leaders. There with Mamu Khoi-San Foundation. The other issue, we have partnered with South African Alcohol Policy Alliance South Africa. We encourage our government to increase taxation on alcohol. Also, when liquor licenses are about to be issued, traditional councils should be consulted. The 12th observation. This year, the meeting of the G20 group of countries take place on the African soil for the first time. We appreciate the invitation by about 4 departments on their G20 meetings. Department of Minister Mackenzie, the Department of Justice, and the Department of, there are about 4. We participate in their G20 meetings. And we invite other departments to invite traditional leaders on these G20 meetings. Kind of a G20 meeting on rural development or development, and yet the custodians of land are not part of that. Coming to the work streams, I will not go much on the workstream 1 of Tatunyoso. During his presentations, he will report about his plans on the 2 indabas he's planning. We have observed the Minister of Agriculture, Minister Steenhuisen, is focusing on established commercial farmers since he took office. We request him to work with us and rural people who have 2 or 3 goats, so that he capacitate them to be at that level too. And these plans must be able to lift the poor people out of poverty. Also works him to building institutional capacity. Minister Korongwana has not found time to meet with traditional leaders regarding this work stream, and that is regrettable. And that undermines the principle of inclusive governance. Workstream 3 of Minister Mackenzie. Minister Mackenzie has accepted that he will contribute in funding 1 project for the institution. And we're looking forward, Minister, to such a funding, and the proposal is on its way to your office. And also, Minister, we request that you support the National House in commemorating the Langeberg revolt that will be in the Northern Cape, whereby Nkosi Chanchi was beheaded. So we want the department to support us. SAPS will need to resolve the issue of protection of traditional leaders. Because the pain and trauma that is inflicted on these families and communities cannot be healed by an inquiry alone. The painful death of Nkosi Khumalo still remains in my mind, where he was gunned down with his wife, and the killers of Nkosi Khumalo left a baby who was 4 months in the car. And you can't be still looking for the police when Nkosi Khumalo was killed and a 4-month-old baby left in the car. And you come in a public platform and talk about police when there's death. Question 4. Advancing infrastructure, investment and skills. Appreciate the work that is being done by Minister McPherson. That allocating a chamber for this house outside the parliamentary precinct is in breach of the law. The house will only accept a building that will be declared by Parliament as part of it. I understand, Mayor of Tshwane, you have 2 old chambers here. We request that Minister McPherson should approach the Tshwane municipality. At least one of the chambers be given to the House for his chamber in Pretoria and offices for our Department of Traditional Affairs. The workstream 5, finalization of policy and constitutional matters. It is deeply unfortunate, Deputy Minister Nel, that your minister has not found time to meet with the institution and not have convened either a work stream as expected. It is a bit disappointing and surprising, given the working relationship you had with us and Minister Kupai. And we urge you and your minister to convene such work streams. In conclusion, We suggest that Minister Kurungwan and Minister Kupai should convene their work streams as a matter of urgency. Minister Nyonzo be permitted to announce his upcoming endeavors. Minister Khoi-San be allowed to confirm his commitment in uplifting poor farmers in rural areas, both in animal and soil usage. Minister Mackenzie to support the Northern Cape intervention by the National House. The Minister of Police should speed up the arrest of people that have killed traditional leaders. Minister McPherson should approach Tshwane regarding the allocation of the old chambers to be used by the House. Quiet.
Alebucha Mutlatsamudula Stilo for presenting our issues quite excellently. Without wasting time, ke rata go laletsa the Deputy President of the Republic, Re Paul Mashatile, go tla go bua le dikgosi DP.
Thank you very much. Greetings to our host, the acting executive mayor of the city of Tshwane, Councillor Eugene Modise. Greetings to chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders, Khosi TM Seatlulo. Greetings to deputy chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders, Unkosi El Mavuso. Greetings to your majesties and royal highnesses here present as acknowledged, Amakhosi Indlovukazi, Khoi-San leaders who are here present, ministers who are present here today, Minister Thabisa, Mackenzie, Noncho, and Schreiber, Deputy DMNL, Matale, Sarupin, and Zikalala, premiers, MECs, and government officials who are here today. Khotsong, Molweni, Lochani, Dimacheroni, Abusheni, Sanbonani. Your Majesties, traditional and Khoi-San leaders, as a child born of Africa, I know very well the ways of our ancestors, where one is not supposed to stand while addressing your majesties, but should kneel in reverence and respect, honoring Amakos. The truth is that the weight rests upon my shoulders, for you have granted me the grace to stand before your presence. At the same time, I feel both honored and privileged to engage in this important dialogue with Your Majesties Amakhosi Asendunkulu and the esteemed leaders and members of our National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders. This dialogue is essential in ensuring that the government fortifies its partnership with the institution of traditional leadership, which I consider to be a direct conduit between the government and local communities, especially those living in rural and communal areas of our country. This is because you, Your Majesties and Royal Highnesses, an entire institution of traditional leadership, have for the longest of time been the custodians of our traditional leadership structures, custodians of our culture and customs, than elected politicians who hold public office for a shorter period of time. As President Ramaphosa once stated, and I quote, "You owe your positions to your bloodline. You are representatives of your forebears and leaders of your people. History has assigned you your positions and responsibilities," close quote. It is for this reason that government cannot make decisions that affect you and your people without your involvement. As voices of your communities and guardians of tradition, we as government have to integrate you into the process of decision-making, ensuring that your views are respected, especially in the areas of land, inadequate infrastructure, customary law, fight against poverty, and community development. We are confident that your presence in today's dialogue will further amplify the voices of traditional communities, and that together we can find solutions to the problems that our communities are facing. That is why we have always engaged the institution of traditional leadership on critical policy matters and legislative reforms. To this end, the Department of COGTA will soon be engaging traditional and Khoi-San leaders on the Traditional and Khoi-San Leadership Bill before it is approved by Cabinet and introduced in Parliament. The Traditional and Khoi-San Leadership Bill is a critical piece of legislation. It seeks to formally recognize the Khoi and San communities and their leadership structures, while also addressing the deficiencies of the Traditional Leadership and Government Framework Act, Act number 41 of 2003. Once enacted, the bill will provide a legal framework to recognize and regulate traditional and Khoi-San leadership institutions, clearly outlining their roles, responsibilities, and engagement with government. This demonstrates both our commitment and responsibility as government to promote inclusive governance. Our government acknowledges that traditional and Khoi-San leaders have needs that require attention to effectively serve their communities. The interministerial task team on traditional leadership was established by President Cyril Ramaphosa to address precisely the issues that you have raised. And many of those Nkosi Mavuso was reminding us about this morning. The interministerial task team was therefore established with the explicit intention of demonstrating our steadfast support for the work of traditional and Khoi-San leadership in their communities. The President insisted that the government must engage frequently and in close communication with you, Your Majesty's traditional and Khoi-San leaders. The interministerial task team's objective is to resolve obstacles that impede progress on issues raised by traditional and Khoi-San leaders, to consolidate existing efforts. Our work as the interministerial task team is structured into 5 work streams as indicated by Nkosi Mavuso this morning, to facilitate greater coordination, but also alignment. Today you will receive reports, very comprehensive reports regarding the advancement and also obstacles encountered in each of these 5 work streams, which are overseen by ministers. Without getting into detail, let me mention some of the work that has been achieved towards resolving concerns that have been raised by traditional leaders. This includes advancing land ownership, tenure rights, and also fast-tracking socio-economic development in rural communities. On the issue of transferring ownership and communal land to traditional councils, we need to have sufficient consultation with the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders and other stakeholders to discuss the mechanisms through which communal land can be transferred in line with Section 25 of our Constitution. To date, the Department of COGTA has completed a desktop analysis and mapping of all departmental land, trust land, and other land, particularly in the former TBVC and self-governing territories. The department will conduct a thorough land audit to determine its ownership in this regard. The Communal Property Association Act has been amended and the trust bill is in progress, but it still does not address conflict between traditional councils, trusts, and communal property association CPAs. The department therefore plans to audit CPAs within traditional authorities' jurisdiction by 2026 and develop a dispute and mediation mechanism program. On the issue of remuneration, allowances and benefits of traditional and Khoi-San leaders, the Independent Remuneration Commission met with traditional leadership to table the report on their findings. The Commission has since drafted proposals on the salaries, allowances, benefits, and tools of trade of traditional and Khoi-San leaders. I know that DM Namashe has indicated to me that there are some issues that we need to bring to the attention of the President before this is finalized, that traditional leaders have raised. But it is important that the government provide traditional and Khoi-San leaders with tools of trade to support their roles in governance and community leadership. The recommendation of the Commission will be considered by the President for finalization, and we are working towards this happening by the end of September this year. We know that the National House of Traditional Khoi-San Leaders has also requested that they be provided with a chamber in Parliament to conduct their business. And Nkosi Mavuso also, in his address this morning, indicated that this should also happen in provinces and in some of our municipal areas where facilities are made available to traditional leaders to do their work. In this regard, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure is currently engaging the Speaker of the National Assembly to explore the possibility of this happening soon. As leader of government business, I will receive a report on progress on this matter when Parliament resumes its work next month. Parliament is currently on recess, and as soon as it is back, we will follow up this matter. Bondabezita, the other major issue that is of concern is the killing of traditional and Khoi-San leaders. In this regard, the provincial task team, or task teams rather, were established to work on this aspect, particularly provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and Mpumalanga. The South African Police Service and the Department of Traditional Affairs are exploring alternative options in terms of the protection of traditional leaders. In this regard, SAPS is implementing the traditional policing concept in these provinces that I've mentioned. SAPS also provides services on wheels through the use of mobile client service centers to reach out to rural communities that are far from police stations. SAPS has requested that they be assisted with resources in this regard, which matter I will discuss with the Minister of Finance, Minister Godongwa. It's a matter that Deputy Minister Mashatile also raised this morning, that they are ready to ensure that the SAPS implement this agreement, but they need to be assisted with resources. As we work towards addressing your needs, I urge you, Amakos, to never forget your mandate as leaders in your communities. Your commitment to promoting national unity, peace, stability, and community cohesion must be unwavering. In addition, you must build, protect, and promote community culture and customs. As the backbone of our communities, traditional and Khoi-San leaders play an important role in establishing a capable and developmental state. Your knowledge, your expertise, and deep relationship with communities make you invaluable collaborators in furthering our country's development and objectives. Your direction and leadership is critical to ensuring that government policies and programs are effectively implemented and reach those who require them the most. We also want traditional leaders to participate in integrated planning, program delivery, and service delivery initiatives meant to benefit traditional communities. Across all spheres of government, we must promote collaborative partnerships between government and traditional leaders. Furthermore, traditional leaders play an important role in addressing social issues in our communities. Your influence and authority can help address issues such as sexual offenses, gender-based violence, substance abuse, and crime in our communities. As we commemorate Women's Month now in August, let's remember those who fought tirelessly against apartheid laws, including past laws, during our struggle for liberation. We must also stand as traditional and Khoi-San leaders against current challenges, including abuse of women and children. We must never tolerate anyone using the name of culture as a justification for mistreating women. To eliminate negative elements of traditional culture and promote gender equality in our communities, we must all support positive features of our traditional culture. We must all work together to continue fostering the growth of a prosperous and united society that is democratic, free from gender-based violence, sexism, and discrimination on the basis of gender and race. Amakosi, we are all aware of the high unemployment rate in our nation, which has a direct impact on our local communities. We will look to you to contribute to the solution by recognizing the skills gaps in your communities and supporting training initiatives that will give community members the know-how for available employment and also entrepreneurial opportunities. We think you can attract investments by promoting a stable and conducive environment for business to operate, leveraging your influence and understanding of your local areas. As we engage in this dialogue today, let us reaffirm our commitment to working together towards a prosperous and inclusive future South Africa for all. We must be active participants in our efforts to strengthen social compact and collaboration between the government, civil society, and interfaith formations to combat poverty, inequality, unemployment, social ills, the killing of traditional leaders, and underdevelopment, amongst others. Our government has the utmost confidence in your ability to guide our nation in the correct direction. And we are eager to work with you to address the time-sensitive issues that are currently plaguing our society. Regarding your concerns, we understand that not all of these issues you have raised have been resolved. The most critical aspect is to reach a consensus with you regarding critical priorities that must be resolved in the immediate term, while simultaneously focusing on other more complex issues that require long-term resolution. Your Majesties, traditional and Khoi-San leaders, we are gathered here on the eve of the convening of the first National Convention scheduled for the 15th to the 17th of August 2025. This convention serves as a precursor to the inaugural national dialogue planned for June 2026. This historic gathering brings together representatives of all sectors of South African society, including government, political parties, civil society, traditional leaders, youth, religious groups, business, labor, academia, and government departments in all spheres to reflect on the state of our nation and begin reimagining the future of our democracy. This first National Convention serves as a launchpad for an inclusive and people-led dialogue aimed at carving a shared vision for our country. It is expected to come up with a clear roadmap to facilitate participation and ensure that citizens have the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to the dialogue process over the next 12 months. As government, we encourage active participation of the institution of traditional leadership in both this coming first National Convention and the entire process of the national dialogue. We want our traditional and Khoi-San leaders to be part of the new social compact that will drive progress towards Vision 2030 and lay the foundation for South Africa's next National Development Plan. Your participation, therefore, will be important for ensuring that the dialogue is inclusive and representative and produce a plan that reflects the interests and aspirations of all South Africans, including those in areas where you govern. In conclusion, Program Director, as we engage in this dialogue today, let us leverage the power of our collaboration to address the challenges, acknowledge the successes, and create a brighter future for generations to come. I therefore wish you a successful dialogue this morning and until we conclude today. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Deputy President, because now we are getting to a point where different leaders of the work streams are going to be presenting in the form of ministers. We are just going to humbly request that the leadership just stick to the points in terms of what they have done, what are they intending to do, and when are they going